We're live. We're going to give people a second to find it. I'm going to retweet it. All right, here we go. Welcome to the Holler, everybody. I am Justin. tnholler.com is where you can find us at the TN Holler on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and all that good stuff. Tonight, we are hosting a State House Representative Candidate Forum for the Williamson County Democratic Party. We have a handful of candidates that are running for State House here in Tennessee. They've thrown their hats in the ring in a number of districts, all in Williamson County. We have Kurt Kosick, Claire Jones, Dr. Laura Anderson, Dr. LaRonda Williams, and Terry Mai here with us, not watching the RNC, doing this very important work instead. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I think you all know how this works. We're going to go around and ask them some questions. If you have some comments, you can comment along. We can see you. This will be recorded, so you can watch it after the fact if you're joining us late. And we're going to start with some introductions. Let's go ahead and start with Claire Jones.
Hi, thanks for having us on, Justin. My name is Claire Jones. I am a nurse and a mom, and I've been kind of telling people I take care of people. I've been going up to the Capitol this last year. They are not taking care of us here in Tennessee. I know a lot of people talk about different ways that we can deal with that. I think the only way to deal with it is to replace these guys. So when I found out that Gina was my representative, I was pretty quick to look for someone. And in my attempts at finding someone, I stopped and looked in the mirror. So I'm running for my kids, I'm running for my patients, and I'm running for the district.
Thank you very much for keeping it short and sweet. That's how we're going to keep things moving. Bonus points for that. Dr. Laura Anderson.
Hi, I am Dr. Laura Andreessen. I'm an OB and platform.
You're breaking
I'm
up
also very interested in advocating for gun safety and for keeping our public schools funded. I have children in public schools in Williamson County. I want other kids to experience that. I spent a lot of time down at the Capitol the last couple of years, and I agree with Claire. They're not listening, so we need to find a different angle to come after this.
Dr. Andreessen, before we move on, can you just tell us who is in the seat that you're running for right now?
Jake McCallum.
McCallum?
I'm in District 6. McCallum, yes.
Okay, Jake McCallum. Okay, one of my favorites. Okay, moving on. Dr. Kurt Kosick.
Justin, it's
not Doctor Kosick.
Kosak. Yeah, there you go. All right, I'm excited to be here, Justin. I've worked very hard the last 4 months, and I've met some wonderful people. I'm going to do something a little bit different. Let's pretend that I won the Democratic primary on August 1st. I am going to be Gino Bulsa's campaign manager, talking to Gino after the election. Gino, I'm worried about this guy, Kosak. He's got a unique resume. He's done a lot of different things and has an impressive education. There are 4 things in particular that make me uneasy about him. Number 1, he taught high school math for 17 years in public schools in Davidson and Williamson County. He's going to say that you don't really know much about education, while he is an educational expert who understands the ins and outs of Tennessee public education. Number 2, he's a former attorney who understands our Constitution and our legal system. Number 3, he was a sales engineer and says he made over 10,000 sales calls on companies throughout Tennessee. And he learned how to develop positive working relationships with many different types of people. And number 4 worries me the most. He's a veteran. He's a former naval officer and aviator. He flew in one of those Top Gun airplanes and has great credibility with veterans. He says he's going after the veteran vote. He thinks that the bonds that veterans have with each other and with respect to our country in terms of patriotism are stronger than the bonds to a political party. He may be right. If Democrats in District 61 unite with Kosak and he's able to get some of the moderate Republican voters who are displeased with your policies and gets the support of a majority of veterans, he can win this. Thank you.
Thank you, Kurt. Terry Mai.
Hi, I am Terry Mai. I am running for Tennessee House of Representatives for District 92. District 92 is currently, this office is currently held by Todd Warner, a Republican. And it is the very little part of Spring Hill that is Williamson County, and then all of Marshall County. There are a couple other bits and pieces of Thompson Station, College Grove, a couple other small communities like that. But by and large, I'm Williamson County, Spring Hill, and Marshall County. I got into this race because, kind of like Claire, I was watching. I had gotten involved in the Democratic Party, the Williamson County Democratic Party, trying to find out what I could do to change Tennessee politics, because I am a survivor of gun violence. My daughter is a survivor of an on-campus active shooter event, and the Covenant shooting just it cut me to the core. And in working with the Williamson County Democratic Party, getting to know people in my district, I, like Claire, I identified myself as a very viable candidate. I have since deciding to run. I've spoken with not only Todd Warner, but I've talked with Angela Hughes, who ran for this office 2 years ago, Tamara King, and Rick Tillis, who've all run for this office. And I'm really excited about this. Never done politics before, so it's like drinking water from a fire hose. I'm learning fast. And I am excited to be here. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Terry. And Dr. LaRonda Williams, it looks like you're good right now. Your internet's been a little in and out, but we got you right now. So your intro, please. Or not. Oh, we lost her again. All right, we'll come back to that. Since you guys mentioned gun violence, let's start with that since it's so important. After the Covenant shooting, there was a cry for action on gun safety laws. It largely went ignored and was pretty much business as usual the next day. The following floor session, 3 Democrats heeded the call and went to the well to peacefully disrupt. 2 were expelled for it. How do you think you would have reacted the following day after the Covenant shooting? And what do you think about Tennessee gun laws in general? Are they too strict, too loose? And what's your stance on gun control? Let's start with you, Dr. Andreessen.
I was also very affected by the Covenant shooting. The first person that called me was my son, who was in high school, and I went down together. The reaction of the people was amazing, and I'm glad that it happened. The people laws that were Democrats were heard once again, and so the Republicans were able to prevail and not pass anything, and then session resulted in the same outcomes. So my hope would be that flip seats, we can end up having to at least have a more fair vote come to the floor.
Thank you, Doctor. I'm sorry. My internet seems okay. I don't think it's my internet, but we're having some internet issues with the 2 doctors. So potentially it's a doctor issue. Claire Jones, again, just to reiterate your feelings about gun safety laws in Tennessee, what we can do to fix them. And also that day after the Covenant shooting, do you think you would have been supportive of the Tennessee 3 and what they did going to the well?
Well, I know I would, because I was there. Right after the Covenant shooting, I was actually next door. There's an assisted living facility right next to the school, and I was actually seeing patients that day. So the facility went on lockdown, and we obviously knew what was happening. And I went home to my family, and like many people, obviously had to process that this had come so close. But right the day after, I don't remember exactly it. I remember putting my kids on the school bus and crying. And the bus driver, and I love Mr. Al, he's our bus driver. He made eye contact with me and I could see tears in his eyes as well. And I knew, because after Sandy Hook, they didn't do anything about this. And I don't just mean in Tennessee, as a nation, we didn't do anything about guns. And so after Covenant, I knew they weren't going to do anything. And I wanted, at least if they weren't going to do anything, I wanted to bear witness to that. And I wanted them to do it in front of my face. So I actually went down to the Capitol. I think the first protest was the March for Our Lives. I actually took my older two children out of school and took them down to that. My oldest, I think, really appreciated that, because he's told me how scared he is going to school. And then I was there the day that they tried to expel the 3 lawmakers. So I know what I did. I was there.
Thank you. Let's go to you, Kurt.
Well, I was shocked and saddened. And the thing that really bothers me about our gun violence is it's so senseless. If we have a tornado and somebody's killed, okay, that's a sad thing, but you can't predict that. These gun deaths are so senseless. It's just terrible. And it's just the common sense. And all of us here, I'm sure, support the Second Amendment. But that doesn't mean that anybody can have a gun, that we don't have safe storage, that we don't have red flag laws. So that was my reaction to it. As far as supporting the guys on the floor, I wasn't there, unlike Claire. I don't know exactly what I would have done. I think what I would have done is immediately started contacting my Republican friends and saying, hey, come on, guys, let's do something. Come on, let's do it. So that's my reaction to it.
Thank you. Okay, Dr. Williams, it looks like we have you right now. So I'm going to take my shot at asking you this question. Basically, how do you feel about gun safety laws and about what the Tennessee 3 did that day in the well after the Covenant shooting? And if you want to try to squeeze in a little bit of an intro, that would be great, but we've kind of moved past that at this point. Did you hear that? Dr. Williams, can you hear me?
No, that's fine. It's interesting. I work from home 90% of my employment. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes. Did you hear the question?
Okay. I was just saying it's interesting. I work from home. Yes. You talked about the gun laws and my response to the Tennessee 3. Interesting. I've worked as a commissioned officer for the Department of Correction, where we don't support red flag laws. We don't consider common sense. We are all in agreement. Majority Americans are in agreement that we want people to have a right to be able to own a gun. But the key issue here is to ensure that individuals that are able to do so, if they are able to pass background checks, if they have the mental capacity to be able to carry, it's going to be paramount. So I'm hoping with this next legislative session, as we move forward, we will incorporate more common sense laws to ensure that people are safe, and also that our Second Amendment rights are rendered.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. And Terry, I think we're going to end with you on this one. Your thoughts on gun laws in Tennessee and what happened at the well that day.
Well, I think the gun laws in Tennessee are way too loose. Guns have more rights than people have at this point in time, to bring up a totally different issue. But I won't go down that path yet. No, I think we absolutely need some good common sense gun safety reforms. Red flag laws, safe storage laws. I would love to see an assault weapon ban. I would love to see the background checks, a full and complete background check before anybody is able to purchase a weapon. And I would like to see a waiting period, 2 weeks to 4 weeks, whatever, so that, I think everybody here probably already knows the statistics that most gun violence happens within just a few days, especially with domestic violence issues, happens within a day or two of purchase of a weapon. So the waiting period just gives people a cooling off time to get. So those are some of the things I would like to have happen with, gun safety reforms. Would I support the Tennessee 3? Absolutely. If they could have gotten, I was there before they went to the well, and I left because I couldn't watch as the supermajority did nothing and ignored all the people in the gallery and in the rotunda and outside the Capitol that day. I left in disgust. I watched from home. I was working from home when they were expelling them. And I was emailing the different people who were testifying during that for and against, and saying, how can you say that? And, kudos to the people who were supportive of the Tennessee 3. So, yes, absolutely. This is a key issue for me.
Just by a show of hands, which of you would support an assault weapons ban in Tennessee? Just seeing a raise of hands. I know Dr. Williams is on a delay, so I'm not going to hold it against her. Okay, there you go. All right, so moving on. So you guys were talking about common sense. Let's talk about a man who has none. Gino Bolso in Williamson County. Williamson County, obviously, one of the strengths of the county are the schools. Gino says he wants to bring us back to 1700s values. He bullies trans kids, goes after pride flags, wants to expand vouchers while his son runs a voucher school, all while suing Williamson County schools. Do you think it's fair to say Gino and generally Republicans tend to be against our public schools? And how will you stand with and fight for Williamson County public schools? Let's start with you, Kurt.
Well, first of all, the most ridiculous thing is a lot of ridiculous things, but to sue your school district is just, to me, unconscionable. Like, it's like going to a company and your first day there saying, I'm going to sue you guys. I mean, he works for us and he's suing us. I mean, he could have asked anybody else, say, I can't take that case. There are 1,000 other lawyers that'll be glad to take that case, but I can't take it. Obviously, he wanted to sue the school district. And then the pride flag thing is just especially ridiculous. I mentioned that I taught 17 years. Not one time in 17 years did me or any other teacher ever say to each other, wow, these pride flags are really interfering with the learning of our students. The thought never even crossed my mind. It's ridiculous. And then the voucher program, it's only $144 million going into private. Well, he says that's not much money. I say it's quite a bit of money, $144 million. The banning books. Now, I think, the Republicans talk about parental choice. That should be a parental choice. If Claire wants her kids to read or not read a book, she can tell them. The same thing with my kids or grandkids. I can say, don't read that book, but I don't need Gino Bolso telling me what my kids can read. So I guess I'll stop there. I'll let somebody else continue.
Thank you very much. And do you support or oppose vouchers? It sounds like you're saying you oppose them.
Yes, because our politicians don't know what's going on in the classroom, and they think it's going to solve the problem. It's not.
Okay. Dr. Williams, hopefully you can hear this one. Vouchers, where are you on vouchers, and how will you fight for Williamson County Public Schools? Hoping the delay is going to kick in here. Maybe not. Okay, Terry, let's go to you. Williamson County Public Schools, vouchers, how will you stand for them? And is it fair to say that Gino is no friend to our public schools?
I think it's fair to say Gino is absolutely not a friend to our public schools. Anybody that's for vouchers is not for our public schools. That takes away so much from our public schools, in my opinion, need to be fully funded. How do you fully fund, or what is a fully funded public school? Well, it's a school where we've got teachers, we're recruiting teachers fresh out of college, and we're training them up, and we're paying them a wage that is competitive to other districts, so that we can get the best and the brightest, and we can retain the best and the brightest. We're losing our experienced teachers because they're going elsewhere because they can get better paid. That's number one. We should have programs that are fully funded. Teachers should not be buying school supplies out of their own pocketbooks. I also think that we should be providing free school lunches for all children. It shouldn't be, nobody can learn if they're hungry, and nobody should be singled out and set apart and made to feel different because they are on a special program for schools. So yeah, those are just a few of the things that I work for. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go to Claire. Dr. Williams, someone's suggesting you use your phone to click the link to get into the stream. That might be a good idea, so I'm just relaying that. Claire, vouchers, Williamson County schools, how will you fight for them?
Yeah, well, I obviously am a vote no for vouchers. Governor Lee has obviously made it very clear that this next session, he's going to go really hard. This is going to be something that he is going to push. My kids are in Williamson County Public Schools. I believe that public education is the foundation of our democracy. I see it in everything. As a nurse, it was really difficult when you had patients that couldn't read their discharge paperwork because they had such poor education. Obviously, we don't need vouchers right now. I look at Williamson County schools, though, and you think if you fund your schools, which Williamson County schools are not only some of the best in the state, but they are some of the best in the Southeast. So they are a testament that if you fund your schools and you invest in them, you will see success. So obviously, this kind of dystopian talking point that Gino has is, I guess it's a scare tactic, but I don't think that many people in Williamson County are really listening to that when it comes to book bans. Gino is accurate when he says he wants to go back to 1700s values. He is actively doing that. So I think that is a certainly wake up call. But our state is, I think, 45th when it comes to per student funding. So if they think that our education system is failing us, maybe they should fund it. We're also, I think, 44th or 45th in teacher pay. As a nurse, I know what it's like to be underpaid and underappreciated, but very respected. So I think there's a lot of things that we can do to help our schools here, not just in Williamson County, but in Tennessee.
Thank you, Claire. Dr. Williams, I'm going to give you another crack at it. Looks like you went out and went back in. I'm asking about vouchers and education and fighting for Williamson County schools as Gino Bolso leads the attack on them.
Yeah, it's interesting. A state representative suing the county that he represents, instead of taking time to speak and talk with teachers and respect librarians and respect those who have gone to school to specialize in areas. He'd rather sue a district instead of taking time to listen. School vouchers are definitely not the answer. To invest $7,500, as they call Families First School Choice Program, take that $75,000 and allow our schools to have free lunches year round. Take that $7,500 and increase your teachers' pay. Teachers are now sending out letters to families so their students know who their teachers are. And at the same time, too, they're providing their wish list. They need toilet paper, they need wipes, they need pencils and paper. Teachers asking for a wish list. So $7,500, provide that so our teachers have their supplies. We are future state legislators and future state leaders using state funds, but we don't want to provide state funds to support our educational systems. Like I said in my forum a week or so ago, we don't know what it looks like based on statistics to have a balanced budget where our schools are balanced. So to incorporate systematic systems where we take funding away and provide it to a private school just seems unfortunately backwards. Our latest statistics in Williamson County, we're number one in the state in education, and Franklin Special Schools is number 2. So our educators are doing it right. So don't insult them, provide them with the services that they need, and watch our public schools advance instead of providing a voucher program that only will benefit those that can afford to go to private school and doesn't offset the cost for those that will wish to go but still can't afford. So I'm
Thank you
totally
so
against the
much.
voucher program.
Sorry. Thank you. And just worth pointing
I
out
hope
that
I'm
Jack.
not. Yeah.
No, you're good.
Mhm.
You're good. That was perfect. And I think it's worth pointing out, since this is a Williamson County crew, that Jack Johnson once said that he would not support vouchers in Williamson County, and now is doing exactly that. One of you mentioned scare tactics, and I just want to talk about something that we're seeing this week and actually this month. There have been hate rallies downtown next door in Nashville. We've seen a few of them. It's not the first time we've seen this. It won't be the last. We have seen it recently where they even hung a banner on a bridge to thank Governor Lee for his policies. Some of the Democrats have pointed out that their rhetoric is not that different from rhetoric that we hear coming out of the legislature from the Republican supermajority. And in fact, at the RNC last night, they were handing out signs that said mass deportation now, which is basically what they were chanting in the streets. I would ask you, and let's start with you, Kurt. Do you agree with the idea that there is not a lot of daylight between what those groups are saying and what we're hearing from some of the Republicans inside the Capitol? And also, what is the role of state representatives to call that out while reaching across the aisle? How do you find that balance?
Well, the Republican legislators, to me, obviously need to call that out and say, this is wrong. We do not condone discriminating against anybody. Mass deportations is just ridiculous, that type of thing. The discrimination against J.D. Vance's wife, who's Indian, is just ridiculous. Our politicians should say there's no room for that in our society. And unfortunately, the Republican politicians, many of them don't say anything. And so you have some people that don't hear any negative comments about activities like that might think, hey, it's okay. It's okay for me to discriminate against somebody for no reason at all, or on their where they're from or their skin color. So I just think it's unconscionable. We need politicians that are believe it, that everybody is entitled to a fair shot in America, that immigrants are valuable. So that's what I think.
Okay, thank you so much. Kurt, Terry, your thoughts on, just to reiterate, the marches that we've seen in Nashville and the relationship between that and a lot of the rhetoric that we hear, not only in our Republican supermajority, also at the RNC and the signs that they had last night, and what's the role that you would play as a state rep in dealing with all that?
Well, I really believe that there's no room for hate in politics. About the mass deportations, I think that's abhorrent. My family immigrated to the United States from other countries, and I think most of the people here are not Native Americans. So, essentially they're saying, get rid of our, my family might not be welcome here if the RNC has their way. The hate groups, especially the neo-Nazi groups, they're scary. They are, again, it's a hate group. It is looking for, they're looking to blame somebody. They're looking to find a scapegoat. They're out of, in my opinion, most hate like that is out of fear. And rather than trying to find a solution, they're trying to find a scapegoat. We need, and as long as we've got people doing the hate mongering, we're not going to be able to truly get our country to work together. And as legislators, we need to be able to work together. Democrats with Democrats and Democrats and Republicans with each other. And, we need to get rid of the divisiveness. We're all here, in my opinion, what we're here to do is work for the people, for the good of our state, for the good of the people that live in the state, and then going on up to our country. And hate is not it's a cliche. It's not a family value. It is not a democratic value. I would like to see us, embracing the differences and allowing, inclusion. I get rid of the hate groups.
Thank you, Terry. Claire, do you need me to restate it, or are you okay?
No, I think I'm okay. I echo a lot of what Terry says. I certainly think that the role of leadership or somebody as a state representative is to, call out anything that is vile like that. But I also think one of the roles of a state representative and what I've been trying to do in my campaign is to build that sense of unity. I still, no matter what is said on Twitter, CNN, or anything, this rhetoric is coming from leadership. I'm not a Republican, so I can't pontificate over why they think that this is the way to go. But I will say that in knocking on doors and talking to people in my community, the people who say that they are Republicans do not agree with any of that. And so I don't think that this is like a party issue. I think that this is, you have people who are just loud and they're aggressive, and we have to fight that with unity. So as a state representative and as a candidate, I've tried to bring some sense of unity. And as someone who lives in Franklin, Tennessee, I have already seen this when we saw Gabrielle Hansen the last election cycle, and Franklin came out and did exactly what our democratic values are, and they did not vote for that. And our mayor is a Republican, so I don't think that it's fair to, obviously we see the leadership in the Republican Party echoing this, but what I'm seeing in the community is more unity against this. And I think you're going to see more people coming out, speaking out against leadership in the Republican Party, hopefully.
Thank you, Claire. Dr. Williams, do you need me to restate the question, or do you have a general sense? Oh, bad timing. It's a crapshoot. Okay. Well, I guess we'll move on to the next question. I'm holding out hope that she pops in, but okay. Doesn't seem like she will be doing that. So let's move on to another ruling that we got today, another thing in the news that I'll just ask you guys to respond to. Is we just found out that a judge overruled the stay on the drag ban. Tennessee is one of the most anti-LGBTQ states in the country, maybe the most, and obviously persecuting the LGBTQ community is a big part of what goes on up at the Capitol. Let's start with you, Terry. What do you think about the level of hate in our state when it comes to the LGBTQ community, the trans community, and how would you be a fighter against that bullying?
Well, again, I am for inclusion. I've been to a few drag shows. Oh my gosh, they're amazing. They are entertainment, and that's what it is. It is entertainment. If you don't like drag shows, don't go to them. It's not everybody's cup of tea, and that's okay too. Not everybody likes ballet. We don't require them to go to ballet, and the people who don't like ballet, they're not out trying to ban ballet. It makes, to me.
Don't give them any ideas, Terry.
Ban ballet.
Oh, but what would we do without the Nutcracker at Christmas?
That's true.
So no, again, we go back to, for some reason, there are some people who seem to have a certain amount of fear of those people who are not like them, or want to find ways to blame people who are not like us for whatever problems are in the world. And again, I believe we need to take responsibility for our lives and for our beliefs and for our actions. We need to be responsible to ourselves and whatever our beliefs are. But, I don't have a right to enforce my beliefs and my values on anybody else. I think mine are I would say they're pretty universal, but again, that's kind of like saying that everybody has common sense. We're not all the same, but I don't want to force other people to. Where would we be without differences in the world? It's like all flowers are not created equal, but and all entertainment it's entertainment. People are just people. And we need to remember that they're human beings with feelings and, and hopes and dreams and aspirations. And let's get down to who the humanity and quit looking at how we're different.
Thanks. Terry. Dr. Williams, it looks like we've got you right now. So I'm going to try to get you to weigh in on this one. This is the hate in our state. We have, I think, the most anti-LGBTQ bills in the entire country. How would you be a friend to the LGBTQ community, and what do you think about the amount of time Republicans spend attacking them? Really thought I had you there. Okay. Doesn't look like she can hear me. Claire, your turn.
All right. Well, I echo everything that Terry has said as well. But I also think that it's important to point out that this is, in my opinion, a distraction from real issues that are affecting Tennesseans. And I think that we are getting way too deep in the culture wars while guns are like the leading cause of death for our children. Like I said earlier, we're 44th or 45th in the nation for per student funding. Our state has some of the highest rates of bankruptcies. We have some of the highest rates of incarceration. I think I just saw a statistic that if Tennessee was a country, we'd be number 9 for the most incarcerated people. I mean, we have private prisons in Tennessee. So the fact that our legislatures are spending their time and our taxpayer money on legislating things like drag shows is it's a distraction, and it's really frustrating. And it also has negative consequences for people in the LGBTQIA+ community. And so there's nothing positive that comes from it. And I think a lot of people are seeing through this, but yeah, I mean, I'm losing friends in this state because, I mean, 2 of my friends have already left this state this summer because they have children that they have concerns for. So
Thank you, Claire. Kurt, same question to you.
Well, the drag show thing is just, it's incredible. Now, I'm a parent. I know a lot of you are parents. How many of you said to your spouse, boy, I'm really concerned about my son or daughter going to a drag show? I mean, we never, in all our years, we never even thought about saying that. To me, it's kind of like the legislature is making a law that you can't allow elephants to run down your street. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So, and I agree with Claire. They're wasting their time on stuff like this. They need to be doing stuff like improving our parks, our infrastructure, our roads, our bridges. And the one thing about the transgender thing, personally, I was in a wisdom circle last year, and it's a group, it's a thing where people get together and you get to know people, and there's a lot of quiet time and reflective time. And one of the participants was a transgender female, and she's one of the most delightful people I've ever met. And now she's a really good friend. And she said to us, I didn't choose this. It chose me. So the idea that we're going to be mean to this delightful lady is just, it's unconscionable. So we need to treat our gay and transgender people with respect and dignity, and just like we treat everyone else.
Thank you, Kurt. Dr. Williams, can you hear me? Just checking. I've been trying to come to you, but I haven't been able to get you, so I'm just going to keep trying. Don't have you. Okay, moving on. Under this Tennessee Republican supermajority, we've seen a real crackdown by Speaker Sexton. He has troopers are a steady presence in the Capitol, roped off the rotunda, dragging moms out of the balcony, banning signs but not guns. What's your general feeling about the state of democracy in Tennessee? And do you think people are sufficiently alarmed about it? Claire, let's start with you.
I mean, you don't need my opinion on the state of democracy. I think Axios is the one that said Tennessee is bottom at the list of all the states when it comes to our democracy. The supermajority is dangerous. There is no, I mean, we're in an authoritarian government at this point. So we are literally in a fight for our democracy here in our state. We know that local elections are what affect our lives more. So this is super concerning. But I think that, I mean, personally, I was there when some of those moms were being arrested, and they are some of my friends. So it was certainly personal. But I also think that what is very frustrating is that even people who are of that party, who have come out and spoken out or gone to meetings, that this legislator is not even listening to their own party. Especially Governor Lee, right before special session, had his own polling that showed that 80% of Tennesseans want to see some common sense gun legislation. So this is like a rogue legislator at this point. They're not even listening to the constituents that are of their own party. So I'm doing what I can do.
Thank you. Terry, your thoughts on democracy in Tennessee under Kremlin Cameron?
Sorry, I've got a puppy who's trying to help me unmute myself, so I apologize for the delay.
No problem.
You know, the Republican supermajority has done everything they could to limit democracy and to turn this into an autocracy, I think, as Claire said. And again, they are not listening to what people want. I've been up at the Capitol, not as much as I would have liked to have been, but you know, I've talked to women and students and people from all over the state and from all different backgrounds, and we all want changes. Do we all want the same changes? Not necessarily, but we want to see something happen different than what the Republican supermajority is doing. They are Cameron Sexton and his cronies are doing everything they can to just run the state as an autocracy. It really, to me, it looks like a blueprint for what they're trying to do at a national level. It's, you know, I mean, almost like an experimental, you know, let's see if it works in Tennessee. And if it works in Tennessee, we'll, you know, take it national. It really is scary, and it should not be. And that is one of the reasons that I'm running for office, is I have felt like my representatives, my senator, they are not listening to me. They don't know who I am. They don't have any idea what is important to me, or even the people who live in their communities, because I've talked to the people and the people want changes.
Thank you, Terry. Kurt, same question to you. Happy to repeat it if you need me to.
No, I'm okay. I just think that if I was in the legislature and I saw all the state troopers escorting people out and banning signs and that type of thing, I would be saying to my peers, hey, guys and ladies, we're doing something wrong. Like Gino Bolso's town hall meetings with all these people that are so upset. I said, if that was me and I was walking out of there, I'd go, wow, I'm doing something wrong. People are not happy here in Tennessee. Many people are not happy. Now, of course, in a democracy, everybody isn't going to be happy. But it just seems like there are a lot of unhappy people in Tennessee who feel they're being ignored. And I totally agree with that. And that's one of the reasons, like Terry said, that I'm running, because I think the purpose of a legislator is to listen and represent the people, not ignore the people.
Thank you, Kurt. Dr. Williams, can you hear me? Got to check again. It's like a running bit. Okay. I'm going to ask you guys a little bit about your own selves now for a minute, especially the two of you that are running in the same primary. I guess it's kind of a two-part question. One part is what separates you from the person that you're running against? And Terry, you can answer this also in terms of your general opponent. And then also, who up at the Capitol, as you've watched them conduct their business, do you go, that person is a legislator that I would kind of like to model myself after? Like, who is somebody that when you look at the way that they are behaving up there, that you say, you know what, that person seems to be doing things right? It can be a Democrat or Republican. Although if it's Republican, I would love to hear who that is. Let's start with you, Terry, so the two who are in the same primary can give it a think.
Well, yeah. How am I different than Todd Warner? Oh, let me count the ways. You know, from what he's a MAGA Republican. He, you know, is loud and proud, and I have absolutely nothing. I am absolutely not a MAGA Republican. I am a lifelong Democrat. I truly believe that you know, we should be here to listen to the people. I am a Christian, but I'm not a Christian nationalist. Again, this is one of those things where I believe that my values, my beliefs are mine and are personal to me. I don't want anybody else telling me what to believe. And that I don't believe, I don't see that necessarily coming from my opponent. He claims to be pro-life. but I don't see a whole lot of legislation coming from him about how we can help the people who are already alive on the planet, who are already alive in the state of Tennessee. What are we doing to support mothers? What are we doing to support children? What are we doing to take care of the unhomed people? What are we doing to take care of the people who don't have enough to eat and whose cost of living, who cannot afford housing? So, I'm supportive of anything we can do to raise the standard of living for people in Tennessee. And I don't think we should be supporting corporations at the expense of people.
Thank you so much. All right, I'm going to come to you guys now. Kurt, again, the question was, how are you different from Claire, and also who up there do you see doing this job and go, you know what, they're doing something right?
Well, I think the difference in our platforms are incredibly close. I think we'd both do a really good job in the legislature. I just think that I think I have a better chance of beating Gino Bulso. That's the bottom line. I think we'd both be excellent, like I say, excellent legislators. But like I said in my opening, if I get the veterans to come with me and get some moderate Republicans to join me, I might have a shot at winning. Now, the representatives that I admire up there, that's a really good question. Gloria Johnson, I like her. I think she's done a good job. She stood up to the supermajority with the guns, and she didn't get it spelled. And I think we might know the reason for that, and I'm not going to say that, but
it's okay. She did.
Well, okay, she did. All right. So her skin color might have had something to do with that. So I admire her for standing up for gun regulations, and so that's my answer.
Okay, good answer. Thank you, Claire. Dr. Williams, I'm going to come to you in a minute. If you can hear me, I'm just going to let Claire answer, and then I'll give you the question in a second.
Yeah, well, I do respectfully disagree with Kurt that I think I could definitely beat Gino Bulso. We have the funding. I've raised over $110,000 just in the last 4 months that I've been running. I've also been endorsed by some national organizations like Planned Parenthood, Democrats Serve. We both have been recognized by Moms Demand. But I also have, at this point, almost 100 volunteers. I'm not knocking on doors by myself. So we are recognizing that in order to flip a seat, we're going to need to have a grassroots organization. I've built up a great team. But I'll also say, with my background, the legislature currently is 14% female. We absolutely need more women in office, especially if they're going to start passing legislation about our bodies. I think that we should be there to discuss that. And then when it comes to who I really look up to in the legislature, I mean, it's not just a few people. But Gloria has become a friend of mine. Obviously, she is part of why I'm running, because she, along with the Justins, brought me to the Capitol and got me involved. But someone that I really have admired this last session is Afton. I mean, she passed a bill, y'all. She is a freshman and she passed a bill, and she has proven that she can reach across the aisle and work with people. And I have talked to some Republican legislators that have a lot of respect for her. And so she's my little hero. I've really enjoyed watching her.
Thank you. Dr. Williams, can you hear me? I'm going to keep checking. You're moving. All right, I got to move on. You mentioned women's reproductive rights. You mentioned the attack on women's bodies. Tennessee has one of the strictest abortion bans in the country, with no real exceptions, even for the life of the mother. Republicans have repeatedly blocked a standalone amendment to allow raped kids to have access to abortion care. Where are you on women's reproductive freedoms in Tennessee, and how dire are the circumstances here? Let's start with you, Claire.
Yeah, so it is a woman's choice. That is That is my bottom line. When it comes to the legislator making decisions, particularly on healthcare, they are not listening to physicians at all. I've had several physicians in the district reach out and discuss with me how ambiguous the law is. So it makes it really difficult to figure out like what is a felony and what isn't. Medicine is always evolving and changing. As a nurse, I have seen some of the issues that arise in pregnancy, not just as a woman who's been pregnant myself multiple times, but working in an emergency room. I used to work at St. Thomas, is the old Baptist building, so they have a labor and delivery. So if you're in any kind of crisis, you're going to come to that facility, and it's really scary. I have 2 daughters. I have a lot of concerns for them, for their future. But I think even more than that is the fact that this is, like when Gina says, let's go back to 1700s values or whatever. It is a control tactic on women. That's why we need more women in office to be able to stand up for ourselves. Bodily autonomy is extremely important. And I think that there's a lot of, this is going to be a big issue, this race. I mean, we saw what happened down in Alabama with Marilyn Lands. She was able to flip a MAGA conservative district, and she ran on abortion care.
Thank you, Claire. I'm letting the women go first on this one, Kurt. I hope you understand. Terry.
I'm absolutely for women's rights to make our own healthcare decisions. As Claire said, I cannot think of a way that you can legislate abortion is only going to be an option because once you have all of the possibilities for when it would be should be available to women, you just need to make it available, and you have to trust the women who are making these decisions, that they're making the decisions that are best for themselves, and they're using their we just have to respect women's rights. I've just got nothing else to say about that. This Roe v. Wade passed in 1973. Women could use coat hangers to hang our clothes up. Again, we don't need to go back to that. We should, here in the state of Tennessee, with a near abortion ban, the only people who can get that life-saving health care are people who can afford to go out of state. That means that there are a lot of people who don't have the means, who are having the back alley abortions, whose lives are being lost because they're not able to access the health care that they need to save their lives, or they're having, babies are having babies, and that's no life for anyone. So no, we absolutely need to make abortion legal. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Terry. Dr. Williams, are you there? Can you hear me? Still no. Okay. I appreciate that you're still trying, though. That shows a level of commitment that I don't know that I would even have at this point. Kurt, women's rights in Tennessee under attack.
Hey, is it all right, Justin, if I just combine, copy and paste Claire and Terry's answer, and that's my answer?
That's up to you.
It really is. I agree with everything they've said, every single word. So rather than repeat what they've said, I'm just going to copy and paste what they said.
Okay, fair enough. I appreciate that, and I think they probably do also. I'm seeing a bunch of people talking about this, so I at least want to mention it, because otherwise it's going to seem like we don't really know what's going on in the world. But I just want to let you all weigh in on what's going on with the presidential race. You are Democrats. Right now there is kind of a situation with the candidate where there's a bunch of people either pressuring him to leave or stay. I just want to hear your thoughts on A, what President Biden should do, and B, where you would be if he did decide to get out as far as supporting the next candidate. Let's start with you, Terry.
Give me the easy question to answer first. Okay, where I stand with President Biden. President Biden has done an amazing job in the 4 years he's been, or 3.5, almost 4 years he's been in office. I absolutely support his run if he chooses to stay in the race. And I hope that if there is a decision made that he doesn't run, that it is his decision. It concerns me that fear is taking the day in some ways. But, I'll just say that if President Biden chooses not to run in the not too distant future, I will support whoever runs on the Democratic ticket. We cannot have another 4 years of the ex-president Trump in office. That, I truly fear for our democracy. I mean, it's bad in Tennessee right now. I think it would be even worse if we did not have a Democrat in office. Again, I absolutely support President Biden. He's got an amazing track record. If he chooses to not run, I will support whoever is on the Democratic ticket.
Thank you. Let's go to you, Kurt. Again, just asking you your feelings about if you have a strong opinion one way or another about what President Biden should do and how you would feel about supporting a candidate if he did decide not to run.
Well, I think he's done a great job. He's bridged the gap from our 45th president, and he's done a great job. I think it's time for him to say he's not going to run just because of his age. 81 years old. President Truman at 78 started to lose it. Joe has started to lose it, unfortunately. And I love the guy. And I sent him a couple of postcards and said, Joe, I love you, and I think you should step aside. And of course, I'll support who's ever running against 45, anybody. My favorite is Andy Beshear. I love him. He's a blue governor in a red state. That is pretty impressive, but I haven't heard his name mentioned. I would love to see it decided in the convention. People say, oh, well, we don't have enough time. Well, that's the way we used to do it before 1968. The delegates used to get together and they'd get together and have these votes. And that's how we determined the presidential candidates. So I think we should open it up. We got a lot of great candidates out there. Gavin Newsom, Andy Beshear, just a lot of people. So anyway, that's my opinion.
Thank you, Kurt. Claire, same question to you.
Yeah, you're definitely going to have to do this because I have a lot to say about this.
Okay, I got the clock going.
Okay, good. I very much am disappointed in some of the conversations I've heard about Joe Biden's age. Yeah, I have, as a younger woman running for office, I would love to see younger people step in. However, if you just specifically look on Joe Biden's legislation and the things that he has been able to pass, he is actually an extremely progressive president. And I think that we need to base our decisions off of how he has acted as our president and not necessarily based off of Arkansas. Sorry, my 4-year-old is banging on the door and it was super distracting. But the threat of another Trump presidency is more concerning to me than somebody who has done a great job and is just kind of aging. I am more concerned about the kind of people that Trump will put in. It's not just who the president is, it's his entire team. And Biden has put together a great team. He's shown good judgment in that. And so that these are the people running our government, not just the president. So I have a lot of concerns about that. But I also think that this is just a big talking point for, Republicans to be like, oh, look over there, and not at the chaos that is their party and their nominee. So I think it's too late to kind of have this conversation. It honestly really scares me, especially because I do really love Joe Biden's platform and everything that he's done, and Trump is terrifying. But I will also say that one of the things that I have found hope in is that I can't control the national stage. So I'm running for office on a local election, and I feel really good about the state of Tennessee. So I just kind of try to focus on that.
Okay. And how many of you would be okay with Kamala if it did end up being her, as by a show of hands? Okay. I see people in the comments asking that question. I'm going to do a couple sort of rapid fire-ish ones. Maybe not, but just asking you to tell me, have you put any thought into a bill or two that you would carry if you went up there, what you would focus on? So I see Claire shaking your head. Let's start with you. What's a bill or two that you might pick up and try to pass when you get up there?
Yeah, I thought a lot about this because like there are things that are important to me that I would say, oh, I'd run on that and this or that. And I guess the question would be, what can you actually pass? Um, for me, when I think about what can actually be done, we can stop vouchers again this next session. We need more people who are going to be adamant to step out. I mean, Governor Lee has 2 more years. I think he's made it very clear he's going to run on vouchers. So we have shown that we can stop vouchers. We need to do that again. I think that there is a lot of room for us to talk about even some common sense gun legislation. I think safe storage has a lot of support, especially what we're seeing with firearms being stolen from vehicles. That I think that we can do something there. I also think, I know it never passes, but I really think that each year we need to keep introducing legislation to expand Medicaid in our state. We can do it. Mississippi is drawing up legislation to do that. Like it will help save Tennessee's hospitals. I mean, it's not going to do everything, but it will help a lot. Tennessee has some of the highest rates, of the most uninsured. It is costing our state a lot of money. So I mean, I know it keeps getting voted down, but I think we can keep doing that.
Thank you, Claire. Terry, a couple bills that you would like to focus on.
Oh, so many. Of course, common sense gun
Those
safety.
two.
You know, I mean, that's number one.
What did you say? What was it?
Common sense gun safety reforms.
Okay.
Yes, the red flag laws, the safe storage laws. Anything. I'd like to rewrite the whole, gun legislation, but that'd take a minute. So yes, expanding Medicaid, absolutely. There is no reason to not accept our federal dollars. Those are our taxes. Bring them back. I would also think that, and I know Afton proposed eliminating the grocery tax. We should absolutely. This is one of 13 states that taxes groceries. It's a very regressive tax. That is so much more, that taxes the poor so much more than it taxes the wealthy. So, and that should be a no-brainer. What else would I work on? Again, school lunches for kids. How can you deny if we're talking about, and I cannot imagine why a Republican supermajority would not be for feeding the children that they are insisting that we bring into this world. Let's feed them, help them to live a life that has some kind of, that's not devastating. Yeah, that's probably enough. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Terry. Kurt, couple bills.
Well, one of the first plank of my platform is politicians should spend at least 3 days a year in schools, experiencing schools from the opening bell to the closing bell, either as substitute teachers or teachers' aides. Now, I know that bill wouldn't pass the first year and it might not pass the second or third, but we got to keep trying. The more people, I would try to encourage school board members to join me because, of course, I would be doing it. I'm an active substitute teacher. Of course, I would be doing it. And the more our politicians know about what's happening in the classroom, the better it would be for Tennessee. We could have one of the leading educational systems in the country. I don't know, maybe not, but it sure wouldn't hurt to have people in classrooms finding out, talking to teachers, just going into class and taking roll would be awesome. Another thing that I'd like to see an increase on cigarette tax. On cigarettes, our smoking rate is about, 18, 20%. The national average is 11. And lo and behold, our tax on cigarettes is substantially lower than the national average. If we raise the tax on cigarettes, we would probably, I don't know what the exact number would be, but we would save hundreds of lives in Tennessee. So those are just two that I would consider.
Thank you, Kurt. I wanted to ask each of you about medical marijuana or marijuana in general before I let you guys out of here. Claire, let's start with you. What is your feeling about medical marijuana in general, and legalizing it in Tennessee?
Yeah, I actually in nursing school did a research paper on medical marijuana and the use of seizures, particularly with kids with epilepsy. So there is a lot of evidence to support its use for health conditions. But at this point, what we are seeing with legislation that is criminalizing possession is a lot of families and a lot of people are finding a really hard time. We're incarcerating people for something that is legal in at this point, like how many states have legalized marijuana? So we're costing our state money because we're incarcerating people based on this. It is not a violent offense. People should be able to, I've seen as a nurse way more harmful effects of alcohol. So it seems like kind of, from my viewpoint, a very silly thing, but with serious consequences on people's lives. Also, I was looking at some of the tax revenue that the state of Colorado has seen over the years. So there is certainly a fiscal element to this, that we could have some tax revenue from legalizing marijuana. So I think there's a lot more reasons to legalize it than there are to not.
Thank you, Claire. Let's go to you, Kurt. And did you inhale? I'm just kidding.
You didn't ask me that.
I'm not going to answer that right now. Maybe later I'll answer it. I definitely think medical marijuana and recreational marijuana should be legal. I think from a fiscal standpoint, it's going to be legal someday, because when Mississippi and Georgia and Kentucky are taking in tax revenue of $300 million a year or whatever it is, the Tennessee legislators are going to finally say, wow, we're missing a lot of money. So my question is, let's just do it now. Let's start getting that $300 million now. Now, when I was an attorney, I represented a lot of people with drug offenses, and I never had one out of probably 300 clients. I never had one that said, oh, I was high on weed, and that's why I robbed that liquor store at gunpoint. It was always, I was on crack cocaine, and we had been doing crack for 4 days, and we had not slept, and that's why we robbed the store. I never heard anybody blame a violent offense on marijuana. So, and there might be negative consequences. And if there are, we can make it illegal again. I mean, we know that cigarettes are terrible, but we make it legal. So I'm a big proponent of it. I would definitely support legislation making marijuana legal, both medical and recreational.
Okay, so that's two. Terry, 3 for 3.
3 for 3. Yeah, especially with the medical marijuana. I've not done a deep dive into this, but I know that there are situations that are absolutely, or health conditions that are much better treated with medical marijuana than with other chemicals that are available to them. As far as recreational use, again, regulate it, make it legal, tax it, put some money in our state coffers, fund our schools. If we need to fund some treatment programs, there should be enough tax money to help with that as well. So, yeah, go for it. And quit incarcerating people for using something that is really, I don't know that I can necessarily say it's totally harmless, but I don't think it's as harmful as alcohol and some other drugs. So, yeah, just regulate it, get some good laws around it.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to ask you guys for your closing arguments, or not arguments, but closing statements, I guess would be the thing. But when you do it, if you could include why you decided to run, I think that would be something that people might want to hear, why you decided to throw your hat in the ring. It's obviously a big undertaking. I did it once, and I would just like to say to everybody out there, do it. You're never going to regret running for office. I got my butt kicked in a general election, but I don't regret it for 1 second. So I appreciate that these three are throwing their hats in the ring, and I encourage everybody to do it. So let's start with you, Terry. What made you decide to run, and a little closing statement about yourself?
I decided to run because I wanted the people that I know who live in my district to have a voice down in Nashville. The people that I talk to in Spring Hill, the people that I've talked with in Marshall County, do not have representation in Nashville right now. And I know how that feels. I know when there are issues that are important to me and important to my neighbors, that we deserve to have a voice down in Nashville. A little bit about me. I'm new to Tennessee. I've lived here 3.5 years. And one of the ways I got acquainted with people was to join the Williamson County Democratic Party. And I did that because I was watching the legislature mismanage. what they're doing. They are not representing the people of Tennessee. And I have met some of the most wonderful people on the planet since making the decision, one, to join the Williamson County Democratic Party, and two, by going out and knocking doors and making phone calls to tell people who I am and ask them to vote for me. This has been, like you said, it's an experience like no other I've had. And it's, I would love to win this race. I would love to be the voice of the people of Spring Hill and the voice of Marshall County, who have not really had our voices heard, and get some things, get some good legislation that will support the people that in my district.
Thank you so much, Terry. Kurt?
I decided to run because I was just concerned about what was going on in our society, especially on the national level with Republicans, and then on the local level with with our supermajority. And some people have heard this story, but I read this in a book. I'm kind of a Civil War historian, and in 1864, a general said to his troops that were being defeated, some Union troops were being defeated. He said, "If you love your country, come up to the front." And I found that inspirational. I thought, well, I'm finally going to do this, and I'm going to run for office. And Justin, you're exactly right. This is incredibly hard to do. And it's not something I'm ever going to regret. I said to myself, I don't want to be 80 and go, I should have run for office. At least I can say I ran for office no matter what happens.
Just not for president.
Yeah, exactly. But so that's the reason I'm running, because so many people in our history have paid such a high price for our democracy and our rule of law and our Constitution. And I just thought it's the least I can do to work really hard for 6 months and see what happens. And another thing that bothers me about Tennessee is our politicians seem to be content with being in last place. This isn't a sporting event, but if we were in the bottom of the AFC South every year for 20 years, we wouldn't be pleased. So we can do so much better as a state, and that's why I'm in it. Thank you.
You sound like a Titans fan. Claire.
Yeah.
So I got into this race because I honestly didn't have a choice. There were too many issues that were affecting me directly as a woman, as a mom, as a nurse working in the community. So I just felt like to sit back and be frustrated with it wasn't going to help me. Actually, running for office has helped a lot with my anxiety around everything that's been happening. I felt called to be a nurse. All I wanted to do was be a nurse. I didn't ever have any goals of anything more than that. In fact, before I announced my candidacy, I had been accepted into a program to get my master's in public health. So I was going to continue my education and working as a nurse and serving the greater community at large. But I felt like this was a way that I could advocate even more for my patients and for my kids and for myself and my friends. So, I mean, honestly, I felt such a calling when I went to the Capitol. And again, I go back to, I just didn't think anything was going to change unless somebody stood up and did something. And I'm here and I'm super happy to be here. It is hard, but I'm actually really enjoying it because I can put all that energy into something productive.
Thank you, Claire. Claire Jones running in District 61. Kurt is also running in District 61. Dr. Laura Andreessen running in, that's my wife calling, running in District 63. LaRonda Williams, Dr. LaRonda Williams, District 65. And Terry Mai is also running in District 92. We really appreciate you guys coming on here today. We appreciate the Williamson County Dems for having this on the Holler. Appreciate you all. Definitely follow all these candidates on their various social media platforms. Follow all the hollers across the state. Thank you all for running. And I'm sorry to the doctors for the technical difficulties. I don't think it was on our end. If it was, I apologize. And we're happy to share all of your information on our feeds. Thank you all for doing this, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Justin.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Take care.